It is Monday on Daily Delivery. Michael Rand here, Patrick Reusse with me as usual. Patrick, how are you?
I am just fine.
You had a column over the weekend that I want to talk about a little bit because it's something I've written about before, kind of what team of the big four, we still call it the big four, and I agree with you in terms of where these leagues are at. What team of the big four in Minnesota might be most likely to win or least likely to win a championship in the next, before 2030 rolls around. So I want to talk about that a little bit. We'll talk Twins and some other stuff later. But what sparked that thought in your piece?
Oh, I have been thinking about that for a month or so because it comes up all the time as to who's going to finally win here because we're now up to 33 years.
Yes,
Unless
91.
unless we unless we think that the Twins are going to win the World Series, and I'm very skeptical about that with this collection. And I'm starting. I was thinking about it. And I think everybody feels like. There's the real homers in the group feel that the Wolves were right on the cusp there, and I don't feel that way. And and I also think that the probably you know winning the baseball title and winning the NBA titles are probably the two hardest things. I kind of have this feeling that hockey's random.
Yeah,
Although,
can be.
and then of course the Vikings. I'm a longtime critic of the Vikings, but I'm very impressed with what they've done since the end of the last season. So and then you start figuring out, okay, what's the chance somebody's going to win the next 5 years? And you realize not very good.
No,
That one
no.
of them is going to win. But anyway, that came up with I came up with my theory on this. I didn't do it just to be controversial, but the Twins. I look at the way the baseball is operating now, the way they're operating, and I say I gave them a 95% improbability to win in the next 5 years, but I think that's high. Actually, I would guess it's closer to zero than 95. So I just don't see it happening with just the way the whole operation's going here. The only good pitcher that they've really found in their whole system in the last 10 years as a starter is Luis Gil, and he's with the Yankees. They gave him up when they were 19 years old. So
Right.
anyway, that was the motivation. I just started. I thought it was that, and there wasn't a real newsy thing around town to go to and watch a game. So I figured, it would be kind of fun to throw that out there. Now always get, because you always say, everybody says, how about the links? Well, when you see this as a national story a lot, it's always the four major
Right.
men's pro sports teams, and that when you win a championship, it's fun to win a Lynx championships. We thought it was fun to win a PWHL championship, but apparently it wasn't. But anyway, the that was kind of the motivation for it. So
I
anyway.
think it. I think it says a lot. Like I said, I've written about this a few times over the years. I think it says a lot about both the teams and the leagues, like the nature of those sports, right? I think you're right. I think hockey is definitely can be the most random, right? You get the hot goalie, like you've written about. You get, games to three or four are a lot
Yeah.
more random than games to 100, like basketball.
Yeah. Yes.
And NFL, right? It's bounces and sometimes it's a referee's call, like anybody can beat anybody in kind of a weird bounce kind of game, and all you really need to do is win three games sometimes to win a Super Bowl, right? If you're
Yes.
the top seed, it's a lot. It doesn't take winning. NBA and NHL, you got to win what 16 times to
16 games now.
16
Yes.
games to get there. Baseball is probably getting close to that number too, with how many rounds of playoffs they have. So getting through those gauntlets, you kind of test yourself a little bit more. But yeah, I think it's interesting because you would think the Wolves, just based on, they're the team that's made a playoff run most recently. Yeah, the Twins won a series last year, but they didn't
Yeah.
go on a playoff run. What I'm kind of torn when I think about the Wolves, like whether they're set up for kind of a 2 to 4 year window where they should be pretty competitive and should have a chance to at least to get back to the point they were at this year, or if this is kind of as good as if they kind of maximized how good they are in their current configuration and they need something not dramatic, but something fairly significant to get even better from here.
Yeah, and when you think about it, Mike, I mean, it was fantastic. The second round series, one of the
Oh,
great
sure.
events in Minnesota history, and they were still only 55% of the way to winning
Yeah.
when they needed 7 more wins. They needed 7 more wins to win it. It's
Yes.
the NBA is just a grind, and you got to be so good. I think you probably have to be better in that sport than any other sport to win it. And look at, I mean, the Mavericks looked great against this team, and now they're down 2-0 against Boston. And the
Right.
first one, they got their doors blown off. They were in the game last night. But I don't know. I look at it and as I pointed out in that column, the whole narrative about, well, when you're a young team, you have to go through it. Well, they're not a young team. Michael Conley's 37.
Right.
Gobert's 31. He's not getting any better. Towns has been in the league 9 years.
Right.
Plus, I don't think, no matter, even if Michael Blomberg is part of the ownership group, it's still not doesn't make any sense to pay $110 million luxuries tax
Right.
for a long period of time because it makes it more difficult than just for the the limits they put on you as far as if you're spending too much money. So
Yes.
beyond the luxury tax, it's the other stuff. So I think there's a very good chance. They won 56 games. We thought they were going to win maybe the most optimistic thought 50, and then they went on this run and they went in that Phoenix series and I'd say, a lot of us were saying, how are they going to beat them? They got beat 3 times by
Right.
this team. Then they were much better than Phoenix. But I don't know. It's just too. I just think they need more. And is Jaden McDaniels going to give them more, or does somebody else have to give them more? But they need better shooting. They need and as good as he is to be smarter. And I still think they're going to. I still believe they're going to try to trade Cat, but we'll see. Anyway, I just don't think they're on the cusp. I don't see
No,
them on the cusp.
they need a young they need a young backcourt running mate for Ant. Someone that's gonna create his own shot, make his own shot, and take some of the pressure off him because they put a lot on him. As
Oh
good as
man,
as good as he is, they someone that's the thing I think they really need if they're ever going to get anywhere from here.
yeah, I agree with you that he shouldn't have to have the ball as much as he did in the postseason. I think that when he can play off the guy, and he can do that some when Connolly's in there. But even when Connolly's in there, they gave him the ball a lot, and
Right.
I think that it's just they're asking too much out of him, and they need a shooter. They
Yes.
need the lighted up shooter, and they don't. They're not a great shooting team, and they're what were they 18th or something,
Yeah,
and
they're fine. They don't have that they don't have that one perimeter guy that just scares you when he gets the ball. Like they've got guys that can shoot. Like Naz Reid's a great shooter. Like, but he's a big guy. Like Towns is a great shooter. He's a big guy. They need someone on the
yeah,
perimeter who just scares you every time he touches the ball to give them some kind of space. Because against Dallas, they had no space.
no, and I said what they need is a sane Michael Beasley, you know,
Right?
somebody who can light it up like he can. So I mean,
Yep.
yeah, Beasley. So I don't know. I mean, I think they maximized their talent this year. I think they did. I think this is as good as it gets right here, right now. Because Rudy, I don't know. They got a really good year out of Rudy.
Yeah.
They were generally healthy.
Yeah.
Cat missed what
About 20
10
games. Cat
games,
missed every
20 games.
everybody in their top eight played at least 62 games, and six
Yeah,
of the eight played at least 76. That was pretty good
yeah.
health last year.
Yeah, and Kyle Anderson drove me crazy most of the year, but he's going to be gone now, and he kind of helped them run things there in the playoffs when things got tough, and he had a really good series. He probably has as good a series as anybody against Dallas, but
Right.
I don't know. I just thought that it was a really good year, but I think it's as good as far as winning a title, making a run. To me, with this bunch, this is as good as it gets right now.
Yeah, I think they've got a chance if they don't get complacent. Like Conley's a big run it back, chemistry kind of guy, but they need another piece. And they need another piece. They got to figure that out, and it's going to be hard to get that other piece with what you said, with how the cap rules are changing, with the luxury tax, with kind of what you are able to add if you go over and things like that.
And what do they got? They got two draft choices right this year, don't they? They
First
got
round pick and a second
this.
round pick. Yeah, 27 and
Uh,
37, I think.
yeah, and the draft. What has really always been, not always, but it's certainly in the last 10, 15 years, is the NBA draft. There's millions of people playing basketball, young
Yeah.
18-year-old guys all over the world. We're fighting them all over the world. And you get about 10 players deep in the draft, and you say, who the hell are these
Right.
guys? Who are they? I mean, it's amazing how good you have to be to contribute as an NBA player. It's
Yes.
amazing. And also, one thing they did this year, and I said this a couple of weeks ago, they didn't develop any of those young guys. They didn't
No.
develop anybody. Nobody. Miller didn't play at all.
No. No
Garza
Minot.
played.
No. Yeah.
Why not? None of them played. They did not. They ground all the way to trying to get that number one seed and win as many games as they could. And they did nothing with their young talent. And I've seen a little G League action, and to me, development wise, that's worthless. I think they're throwing
Yeah.
a lot of me. Just go down there. Everybody's pouting because they're
Like an
there.
all-star game. Nobody's
There's
playing defense. It's yeah.
700 people there if you're lucky. If they're giving something away, nobody. Unlike minor league hockey, nobody goes to watches minor
Yeah.
league basketball for some reason, and
Mm.
I don't know. They just I think they got the plus. We saw. So I mean, I like Finch a lot. I think he's great, but I think we saw some warts with the coaching in the Dallas series. I think they
Yeah,
got
they got
badly
outcoached.
out. They got badly outcoached in that series. So I think there's a lot of questions.
A lot of questions, a lot of
And
potential, but a lot of questions. Yeah, I think the biggest one is the one you raised. Was this year, at least as they're currently configured, as good as it gets, or because that's the big question they got to be asking themselves right now, especially with free agency and the draft just a couple weeks away. That is the big question. Are they? Is this as good as it gets, or are they going to
yeah,
get better?
and we've talked about it the last week, a couple of weeks before that, about just because Connolly says he's bringing everybody
Yes.
back. Don't believe it.
Yeah.
Don't believe
Yes.
it. So,
No.
and it seems like he can do anything he wants to do here with the ownership. And people are worried about the ownership battle, but the ownership battle is, Taylor's pretty much off. The stuff leaked from the Taylor camp is that they'll spend the money, and
Right.
now that the other guy's got Michael Bloomberg, that's they're not going to have a problem with it either.
No.
So,
Why?
and
By the way,
even though
why didn't they get Bloomberg like 3 or 4 months ago? They
I
could have
don't know, I
solved
don't
this
know
whole
why.
problem.
Yeah, why did it take so long? I can't really figure that out. I did not either. It would have been. Yeah, whatever they could have written out the check on
Right.
March
Right.
27th, and they wouldn't
Right.
have had to go through this. It was the goofiest financial, arrangement of all time. I
Right.
don't know what the motivation was, but anyway, hopefully when it all shakes out, whoever ends up with the team is when they start telling us they need the new arena, that they're going to be
Right.
willing to pay for most of it.
Right.
So anyway. But
It,
that's yeah.
yeah.
Anyway, that's my theory for making the Twins the longest shot and the Wolves the second longest shot is just a. I think this is the best they got with what they have now, and B. It is so hard to win an
Yeah.
NBA title.
I think
It's
that's fair.
and
NHL, you give the Wild the second best chance out of those four. talking about, the talent they have on the top end with, obviously with Kaprizov and Boldy, Eriksson Ek. That's a pretty formidable first line if you want to line up that way, especially in the playoffs. You had the emergence last year of Faber. The big one to me is the goalie. If that young
Yes.
goalie, if Wallstead is everything they want him to be, and he's your kind of cornerstone goalie for the next 10 years, then you've got a chance. Because, right now they kind of, Gustafson had that great year 2 years ago, but then backslid last year. And that was kind of the story of the year. Like nobody wanted to just come out and say it, but their goaltending was kind of the difference last
Oh,
year.
yes. Yeah, they were, yeah, they were. I mean, they do it. I was, the few times I was over there, you looked at that their first line and said they've never had a first line like
No.
this. I mean, X great and Boldy's very good, and Kaprizov's the best player they've ever had, probably.
Yeah.
So that's fine, and every team in the league fills in all over the place anyway. But and Faber is terrific,
Yeah.
but yeah, isn't it time to have a goalie that's that this guy's going to be your goalie for 7 years or
Yeah.
something? I mean, they've done this rent a goalie thing for coming. The Duber shows up and he's good for a year and a half, and then he can't stop a pumpkin, and then they go
Right.
on and on like that. It's time to. I suppose it's not unusual, though. You look around the league and you never know who's playing goalie for anybody. But Florida's going to win that cup here, and they got that because they got that goalie that never Bobrowski or whatever his name is never lets in any goals.
Right. It's a good guy to
That's the
have.
secret. Yeah, and that's they okay. What Wallstead comes up his first game, he gives up six or something, and they
Right.
send him back down. Why'd you waste the whole year? Not it's a pretty much a rebuilding year. Why didn't you
Yes.
let him play 15 games or something? I don't know.
I don't know either. I don't know. They
I
want
don't
to.
know about that operation right now. I mean, Garen is a very volatile character, and is he made for staying power? I don't know. As the boss, I gotta think. He's got a. He had his big issue last year with the treatment he gave to a guy I know very well, Andrew. I don't know. He's a very volatile character, and
Yes.
we liked that at first, but I don't know if he's got staying power either. But I like their. I don't think that it's a lost cause over there.
No.
And they're supposedly they have some. A couple more young guys that are going to be pretty good players next year. So
Yeah.
and we're talking 5 years now. I'm not telling you
Yes.
next year they're going to
Right.
win the
Exactly. That's the
title.
big.
So,
That's a big distinction. These guys,
yes,
well, we got to
in
remember
the
with,
next 5 years.
and we got to remember with them too. They got one more year of the Parisi Suter
Yes,
half
right.
jail, and then they're out of that. And it's like you just give someone an extra what 15 million dollars of cap
Yeah.
space suddenly to actually spend on
Right.
players instead of just
And in
nothingness.
the NHL, 15 million is two good players.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
two really good players. Not unlike most other leagues. I mean, NBA. That's
Hmm.
Kyle Anderson.
Right.
That's a
Right.
little better than Kyle Anderson. So
Right.
it's 15 million is a lot of money in the NHL.
Yes, it is. I think
I
I
mean,
think that's spot on. I think they've got potential. They kind of had the year last year where it kind of felt like they were stalling a little bit, but that's just kind of where they are in their trajectory. They're kind of in the same place. I think I wrote about this last year. It feels like they're kind of in the same place the Vikings are, just kind of trying to get organized. You can kind of see the pieces in place, but they're not there yet. But you give the Vikings the best chance. And I don't know if you're just throwing throwing a bone to the masses. Of course, they've never won one, but I do see it. In the NFL, you do have to take into account not just the team but the league and what it takes to win. And you see these weird teams sometimes. All of a sudden, they're like, "Wait, why this team got to the NFC title game?" It doesn't take much in the course of a year. Even the Vikings 2 years ago, winning 13 games. Now they flamed out in the playoffs right away, and they weren't a great team. But like, you can have a year like that, and you can see them
yes.
building the defense, and it's going to depend on. It's all going to come down to McCarthy and how good he is, probably, or how good the quarterbacks are. But they've got some pieces there where you can say, okay, yeah, maybe this is starting to build up back the right way. If this and that.
I think that the guys they got know what they're doing. We were way worried about Quasi in his first draft, and
Right.
that proved to be a disaster. But they did. And I wrote about this, and didn't make me unique a couple of months ago when they finally got rid of Kirk.
Yeah.
That that they handled that perfectly because they acted like they threw the Kirk crowd a bone that boy we'd love to have him back. They weren't bringing him back for
No.
goodness sakes. What are you idiots? You're gonna pay 40 million or something that
Right.
would ended up being 50 to this guy who was slightly better than mediocre as far as winning games and he's with all the flaws he's got, and he's 36 years old. You're right. They got to be right about McCarthy. This isn't like drafting Christian Ponder, though, out of
No.
utter desperation. I mean, this was a guy they wanted, and a lot of people wanted him. And I really
Right.
do think I might be a sucker, but I believe that this was a unique class I don't think this was a typical class for quarterbacks where you're going to get, because usually what 3 out of 5 are busts, right? Or they're
Right.
the
Yeah.
guys that are going to be the big difference makers. But these four guys were something. Now, whatever the guy in Atlanta was doing by drafting Penix, we'll never
Right.
figure that out. But they did this team a favor, and everybody, what you look at McCarthy, and he's a white guy, and he played for Michigan and handed off a lot, but he's a hell of an athlete, and
Yeah.
and I really think that that they obviously to have any chance they have to be right on him, but
Yes.
I also think that they're smart to bring in Darnold. Darnold can play, and then this idea, when's McCarthy going to take over? Well, let's just see, just
Right.
see. But I think they know what they're doing, I thought getting the guy from Alabama was genius.
Yes.
So and not and I've talked about it too. Not paying Hunter was
Yeah.
you got 3 pass rushers for what it would have cost you for Hunter, for
Right.
goodness sake. So I think they know what they're doing, and that we'll see. And I don't think everybody thinks this is the toughest game there is, and it is on a weekly basis of guys beating the hell out of each other and ended up,
Hmm.
not knowing who they are when they're 50 years old. But as far as winning it, I don't think it's anywhere near the grind that it is in either the NHL or the NBA for sure. You
Yeah.
know,
I think it's
and
hard to it's hard to
and
sustain.
baseball too. I mean,
Yeah.
geez.
It's hard to sustain excellence these days. I mean, the Chiefs being the different example, but just with the cap and the ramifications of that, once these guys get paid, it's hard to keep everybody together unless you've got the best quarterback on the planet. But it's not exceedingly tough to have a really good year or two, to have a window where you can win a championship because of just the randomness of the league and the way it's framed up. Like if you're bad, you get draft picks, you can maximize your cap space, and you can get good. You can turn yourself around pretty fast in the NFL.
Yes, and you get, it's not like you don't have to go 13-4 every year. You go
No.
10-7, and you got a chance. And I think that I think that plus it's got to happen here, doesn't it?
Oh
Someday,
man.
something.
Well,
Everything's got to work. Everything's got to work, doesn't it? So
hasn't
someday.
happened. It hasn't happened. I mean, that's the thing. You take it not just the Vikings, but the totality of it all. Like since 1991, October of 91, these four leagues, which we've had a team in these four leagues for most of that time, right? You had the
Yeah,
NHL
we
gap
missed
of
seven
six,
years
yeah,
of
7 years
hockey.
of
Yeah.
NHL, but Wolves have been around that long. Vikings and Twins certainly been around that long, and we've had a little bit of North Stars at the end of that, and then Wild at the rest of it. Like that's so many seasons where they haven't won. Now is some of that? Here's a question: is some of that a function of the way modern sports are run? Because I think you wrote about that a little bit in the context of the Twins. Like back in '91, you could be a team like the Twins and feel like you could
That's
put together a team year in and year out. If you've got an uncapped sport, these other the sports that are capped in a real way, like the NHL for sure, and a little bit of the NFL too, not really the NBA. Those sports, I think it is possible for anybody to kind of compete, but it's hard to compete in baseball right now if you're the Twins.
Yeah, yeah, and teams do pop up. Last year, like Texas and
Sure.
Arizona, where Texas is paying plenty. They got
Right.
the middle of the infield cost them 500 million or something like that. But Arizona popped up and got it and went to the World Series out of nowhere. But and in this playoff system, I mean, you just look at this team and they got no chance, for goodness sakes. I mean, there's you know, I just it's really tough, and I mean, how embarrassing is it that you're paying one guy from Japan because you're the Dodgers 700 million, and you got the Oakland A's, trying to get the payroll down to about $10 million or $15 million
Yeah.
or something. I mean, it's an embarrassment of the, and I'll tell you what, it is costing this league, to me, a lot of popularity.
Yeah.
Nobody, I mean, it's people are saying, what's the use? The Dodge, the baseball's always kind of been the glamour teams, the Dodgers and the Yankees and blah blah blah, and the cute little Cubs and all that stuff. But that narrative is worn out, and I to just have 20 some franchises that have no chance is really hurting.
Yeah.
I'm not a big get the salary cap. They're not going to get a salary cap because they
No, you
got the
can't
good
now.
union. But they think they're penalizing these teams, but then you got 5 6 teams. You got 5 6 teams bringing in more money than the rest of the other 25, and
Right.
plus this regional TV thing is
Yes.
their lack of foresight on this thing is a disaster. Meanwhile,
Yes.
we were improving the game with the pitch clock, but the
Right.
pitch clock does not change the economics of it. And I was okay. This is just a little thing. The neighbor kid
Yeah.
is playing t-ball.
Okay.
4-year-old t-ball.
Okay.
So he's a character. So we talk out there. So I went and saw his last game.
Okay.
But the 4-year-old t-ball, it's not. It's a little hard team to get things organized.
I'm
But it
sure.
was over at Breck School, right?
Okay.
And they got two little baseball teams that have about t-ball teams that have about 15 players total. They got
Okay.
soccer players
Oh yeah.
all over the place,
Yep.
all fields all over the place. You got way more kids playing soccer than baseball,
Yep.
and baseball's got problem, and they try to avoid talking about it. And I don't know. I was watching some of the college games, a little bit of the college game the other day, and it's a bunch of guys strutting around like idiots, and they're all macho, yeah, show off type of
Right.
players, and I don't know. I love the game, but I don't love it as much as I used to. I'll tell you that, and I think they got serious issues that they aren't addressing here. ESPN supposedly is bailing out on baseball.
Is that right? Wow.
Yeah, they're not going to renew their contract, is what the rumors are.
Wow.
And I mean, think about it. The biggest thing going in baseball 10 years ago was Baseball Tonight every night. And
Right.
now they haven't had that for, what, 7 8 years.
Yeah, I used to watch that all the
And
time. It was yeah.
yeah, they, their demographics tell them that the game is really hurting. And then you can, not only the graphics, but you can see it.
Yes.
You can see it when you go drive around looking to, go over to Breck on a Saturday morning.
Yeah.
You got 150 kids playing soccer and 15 playing baseball.
Wow.
So some version of baseball.
Right.
That T-ball, I wouldn't exactly.
No.
Yeah, as I said, I was very impressed with the ball tackling in that game, but they did a fine job of ball tackling. But it's just what the parents are getting the kids into, and
Well,
it's soccer, So
we've got we've got three kids. We've gotten them into different various activities. Our oldest, especially, she played softball one summer, but she's done more soccer, and now she's really into gymnastics. So that's kind of seems like that's going to be her thing. And then we got to get the our youngest son. He's 4, so we got to think about what for him. We haven't done any organized sports for him yet, but yeah, I don't know what he'll gravitate towards or what he'll want to play. But he tends to want to, if he sees a ball, he tends to want to kick it rather than throw it. That's for sure. So we'll see. We'll
Yeah, we
see.
will. We will. Anyway,
Yes,
that's my prediction. If anybody's going to win a title in the next 5 years, I give the Vikings a 30%
I
chance,
like
which
it.
is pretty high. Which is
Yes,
pretty high, but I do think these guys know what they're doing. Money is not any object, and it's not because Ziggy is this generous guy. Everybody in the NFL pays to the cap, and they do that because they are making ungodly amounts of
right,
money. And when you're watching TV this year, and there's 14 games that are on various streaming
right.
outlets, and next year there's 25 of them, and 5 years from now there's all of them.
Yep.
You know that they're just making more and more and more
Yes.
money, and money is no object.
No.
It's how smart you are in the NFL because money is not an object.
100%. Few more things. We should talk specifics on Twins for just a few minutes. They finished off their latest hot streak and started a cold one right away. They lost 5 in a
Yes,
row. I looked this up, or a friend of mine told me about this, and I confirmed it, looked it up. Now 0-14 against the three best teams in the AL this year: the
yes.
Yankees, Orioles, and Cleveland. So that's not good. And then they lost 2 more to Pittsburgh before winning that one in extras yesterday. But they, kind of up, down, up, down, up, down all year. They're with 34 and 31. They're okay. Everybody was hoping, hey, hold down the fort until Royce Lewis gets back, and then they lost 5 in a row right when he got back. And some of it's just
Yeah.
opponents and opposing starting pitching, but they haven't been good against good teams. That doesn't bode well for any kind of play in
Well,
October, even if they get there.
another thing is we're talking about the long-term future of baseball with the level at which pitching now dominates hitting is
Yes,
another serious problem. The ball is never in play. Nobody's scoring any runs. Once in a while, you run into one of those games where everybody's out of pitching and it's 16-11. But
right.
there's an incredible number of shutouts. There's an incredible number of low hit games. And the pitching is so good. But right now, I was over at St. Paul Thursday,
Oh yeah,
and the first game is okay, and then the second game, Louis starts.
yep,
Louis is apparently going to pitch here on Tuesday because they're going to want to push everybody back. Louis Barlin, who we all think probably should be in the bullpen, throws 10 pitches in the first inning, 3 strikeouts,
yep.
9 guys, doesn't throw a ball. There's
Okay,
one foul ball. Second inning, 36 pitches, 5 runs, whatever it was, 4 walks, long home run. What
yeah.
happened? I don't know. It was unbelievable.
I don't know.
And he was so frustrated. The other thing about AAA baseball I'm seeing is you watch it and it's the fellas are all kind of in it for themselves, that
Yep,
the strikeout, you get the big pout. Julian didn't run out of. I wouldn't say he didn't run out of ball, but he ran out of ball at 80%,
yep.
in my opinion. And I don't know. It's so it was not impressive. Although the next night I saw they had 9,500 people there or something. They're still getting pretty good crowds over there, but.
Yeah.
I don't know. The right now I'm not impressed. Although the one good sign is Correa is hitting, like
Yes.
he's got hot with the bat, and Kepler's still hanging in there. He's not red hot, but I don't know. They just they had to send Julian back, and now they got Willie Castro playing every day at second base, and they just got Carlos Santana's. I
He's fine.
never
Just
I
a guy.
can't figure out why they brought in a 38-year-old guy, and Jeffers is cooled off. I just don't think they're very good. That's my opinion. I liked last year's team a lot more. Now, of course, at this time last year, we hated last year's team
Yes, we
too.
did
They
too.
weren't
Yes.
scoring any runs, so
Right.
I don't know. It's a long brawl, but I
Well,
just don't. I just don't detect between the. Yeah, we talked about this between the TV and the
yep.
salary cutting, not
Yep.
bringing Sonny Gray back. They're really in trouble with their fans. I think they're really in trouble.
Yeah, and the team, the product, like they just don't have the offense isn't consistent enough, and the pitching, starting pitching is just it is what we thought it would be. I looked it up the other day. They were second in the league in starters ERA last year. They're 25th right now. They're just not
Yeah.
very good. They're who Woods Richardson is probably overachieving relative to what we thought
Yes.
he would be. Joe Ryan has probably been a little bit better than I thought he would be. The rest of those guys have ERAs like in the fives, and Pablo's been a huge disappointment this year.
Yes.
And Paddock, for whatever they want to get out of him, it seems like he has one bad game for every good game he has. And Bailey Ober's, he's okay, but his ERA is over 5. Like he's not been good either.
No, he's a kind of a floundered here, and as you say, I think Paddock's given him. If everybody went out there with the attitude of Paddock, because I mean he's trying, but he
Oh
hasn't
yeah,
pitched for 2 years. He's a fired up guy, but man alive, how far do you think you can push him after not having pitched for 2 years? And there's nothing on the way. This Festa kid, he's got a great arm over there, but he never goes beyond 5 innings.
right.
And I don't know. It is an incredible thing that you look at. Derek Falvey now goes all the way back to November 2016, right? And
That's
the
what I
main
got.
reason
Yeah,
he got hired is because Cleveland's great
pitching.
ability to develop pitching,
Yes,
and they're still doing
it's
it.
8 years.
Obviously, they
Yeah,
they lost they 8 years and they lost their best starter, Bieber,
yes,
and it doesn't make any difference. They got all these other guys. They come up, they all pitch good. They got some guy named BB I never heard of. He never gives up any runs. They're like 20 games over 500,
yeah.
and the Twins. When's the last one that came through the system and got developed? And
I
Brios,
mean,
I don't know. When's the last starter that they developed?
was Ober was there. Ober's their
Yeah,
own, right?
Ober's their guy. Yeah, he's their guy, right?
But he's
And
but
yeah,
he's like a number 4 starter probably, right? Like that's kind
and
of
you
what he
could
is.
say Ryan was. They got Ryan Young, so they did some development with him, but
Right.
actually he was
He was Triple A when they got
pitching
him.
in the Olympics. Yeah, and he was pitching in the Olympics. But they're yeah, they just they have been disappointing in developing pitchers. That's
Yes,
for sure.
I would
So.
agree with that.
Mm.
A couple more things before we go. At that PWHL story with Natalie Darwitz out that was quite the thing. Just the news breaking, and then just gonna the transparency the league has to have to a degree because it's all like league owned. They kind of have to, the league has to come out and say, yeah, this happened, and kind of here's why. It just kind of seemed like there was a conflict between her and the head coach, which is a story as old
Yeah,
as time, but
yeah, but they made it sound like there's personnel problems, and
yeah,
I don't know. They made it sound like well, yeah, you have, I'll give them credit. They at least their director of the woman who's their director of something. I don't know, was it PR or information? Apparently had a conference call
yeah,
with Rachel and some other reporters here in town, and basically said it's a months long investigation
yeah.
of Natalie's, and maybe she gets maybe she gets angry. I don't know when things
Who
are
knows?
not going right, but it's she obviously offended. In addition to not getting along with Clee, she must have had an employee or two, or not. Maybe not an employee, maybe a player or two. I don't know. They
Yeah.
got some. Supposedly, they got some players who they got a couple of players who think they run the operation too. So anyway, I don't know what it was, but by they answered fewer questions than they
Yeah.
gave, and then Natalie's one sentence stay or two sentence statements yesterday kind of I she let it known. I mean, it was in that reading into that little statement she made is she was surprised this happened,
Yeah.
right? But that she can't talk about it. So
Right.
so they, I mean, it's modern business, it's modern communications that they double talk around everything, and then people have to leak out their own information
Right.
as to when something happened. But so I'm looking at their draft choices
Which
today, right?
the
Their
draft is
draft
today in St. Paul, and they just won a
St. Paul.
championship.
Yeah, but one of the people that were for draft is Amanda Kessel. She's 32. How did she end up in the draft?
I don't know. I
Amanda
don't know.
Kessel. It looks like just everyone who's not in the league now
Is
is,
available.
yeah, except she was in the league this year. So
I don't know.
it's the weirdest thing of all time. But yeah, you're having the draft here, and I did come up with the nickname for them, though. I'm very proud
Okay.
of the nickname, the Backstabbers. That's pretty good.
There you go.
We had that
All
on
sorts of good
Twitter.
logo, all sorts of good logo
Yeah, yeah.
opportunities.
Well, or the song, the goal song would be great. You know, that OJ song would be great. It would be when they score a goal. Although I'll tell you one thing, no matter what that league, they better figure out a way to score some goals. It's
Yes.
they're proud of themselves for letting the women hit each other, right?
Yeah.
But it's keeping them from scoring any goals. They don't give up any goals. I think women's hockey in a general has got a big problem with that. The Gophers this year, way fewer. I
Yep.
mean, if you get a mismatch, you can beat somebody 8-2,
Right.
but all the good games were 2-1. You
Right.
know, and they got a goal scoring problem, and they certainly do in that league. But yeah, it's. I mean, Darwitz is one of my favorite characters. I know her well from one of her, her
She's been around
amateur
forever.
days, and yeah,
Egan and
she
then the
has,
Gophers. Yeah.
and I mean, you basically beg her to start the whole thing, and we had the big story about she's sweeping
Yeah.
floors over there and doing
Right.
everything, and boom, all of a sudden
I
this
know it.
happens, and you're wondering if it's. I have no idea,
No.
but what caused it, and she's not talking about it now, but. I don't know. There's some kind of a settlement coming up, but it is funny that we tried to make such a huge deal out of winning a 16 league off the thing, and then boom, this happened.
I know it.
So weird, weird. But anyway,
Hey,
get some nicknames here. Come on,
yeah,
this
they're
is
gonna get some
stupid.
nicknames soon. We're gonna get some nicknames
Oh,
soon.
oh, oh! By the way, are we
Backstabbers.
getting our City Connect jerseys this week?
I'll
Is
probably think
it this
so.
week?
Are you ready?
But I think, oh God, I'm excited. I can't wait. That what's the one I saw the other day made me puke. It was terrible. Who was it? I can't remember who it was. They got a big, oh God. Whew, this,
Oh man.
anybody mentions it to me, I'm gonna kick them in the shin. You know.
Hey, before we get out of
Anyway,
here, Lynx are red hot and no Caitlin
yes,
Clark in the Olympics because I don't know why,
that
because
was
she's not
that
ready
was
yet.
never gonna happen.
No,
For goodness sakes, it's she's not one of the top 12 in the league, and
no,
they're Griner. They pretty much have to put on the team, not only because she's a good player, but all she went through,
right,
and then Tarasi wants to be a six timer.
right.
So, I mean, it's I'm absolutely shocked at the reaction, but I do think that David Portnoy and guys like this getting all outraged. He's watched 5 minutes of women's basketball in his life. Who's he trying to kid?
Right.
And I mean, I think everybody's just doing it to be,
To be loud and important.
if she'd made the team, it would have been the opposite. How
Right,
could she be on the team?
right,
Didn't you see she had 3 points the other
right.
day? I mean, she's a great player, but I guarantee you, if somebody gets hurt, she'll be on the team.
There you go. That's a good thought.
I bet. Yeah, but and Reeve isn't allowing herself to talk about it yet.
No,
So anyway, I saw she blew it off. Although I saw on a very high class quote today from Cheryl. She says that Nafisa should complain more about the officiating. So that's good. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Caitlin could probably use a break too. You know what I mean? That's maybe
Oh,
not
I
the
do too. I think I said she should go to a private island for 3 weeks and sit on
seriously
the
just
beach. Remember Body
decompress.
Heat? Remember Body Heat, one of the great movies ever?
I've not seen Body Heat. I've not seen Body
Kathleen
Heat.
Turner and William Hurt. And
Right.
she ends up being this great scammer. And the end of the movie is she's on this isolated beach and
Okay.
somebody's waiting on her, and there's a big cliff mountain behind her, kind
Yeah.
of like Hawaii, but not more remote.
Yeah.
That's what Caitlin,
Yes.
wherever that is, Caitlin should find
Yes.
that place
I
and
would
go sit
agree.
on that beach for 3 weeks
Yep. Get
and
away from
come back
everybody.
refreshed. How could she take it?
I don't
How could
know.
she take this
I don't
attention? It
know.
would drive me
I don't
insane.
know.
It
I
was
don't know.
her.
But she's been great through all of it in terms of how she
Yeah,
handled it. But
yeah, and this she's not whining about this or
no.
I don't know. Or he said nobody will watch. Well, what they're gonna watch when she's playing 6 minutes? Yeah, I mean,
Right.
I don't know. Then they're gonna say, why isn't she playing? I mean,
Right.
people are kind of handling, the idiots that just go because she's playing.
Right.
There's, she's great. She's fun.
Right.
She was outstanding. But man, alive, she's not as good a player as Nafisa Collier, for
No,
goodness
not
sake.
right now.
So
No.
yeah, no. So I don't. I was not surprised at all, and I
No.
think they would have created. I think they created more of a storm if they put her on it, because
Yeah.
it's not like when they put Leitner on the Dream Team in
Right.
'92, because they said that was the first year of the
Right. They
pros,
wanted a
and
link to it.
they said one college player they picked one of the biggest dorks that ever lived, but anyway, and he was treated like scum on that team, but by the rest of them. But this is. I don't know. I didn't think she was going to make the team, and I'm surprised that it was as crazy as it was. But I
Yeah.
guess I sort of realized that, that she brought. I mean, so many people had never watched college basketball before, and they just did it because they were hearing about her, and they think she's the only player there is out there, and it's stupid. But anyway, we'll get over it, and they'll win the gold medal, and what difference,
Right.
whether she was on the team or not, they're going to
Yes.
win the gold medal. So what
Yeah.
difference does it make? So anyhow,
All right, Patrick. Well,
all right.
unless you got any final rants, that was a good one. That was good enough. We'll
No,
get out of here.
I don't think I have any particular rant, except as a pool owner, I'm very upset with 51 degrees because the steam is coming off my pool out here in the back, and that's money going right up into the sky,
The
right
money
up into the
evaporating into
sky.
the sky.
Yes, that's right.
All right.
All
Well,
right,
I'll
all
talk to
right.
you in 2 weeks. No Monday show next week. No shows
All
next
right.
week.
Take
Vacation
a
time.
much earned week off.
Yeah, me
Dang
and, me and Caitlin need to get to a different
That's right.
different desert islands for a while.
That's right.
All right.
All right. So,
Thanks, Patrick.
see you.
Bye bye.
Bye.